Shut up and sit down.
Hello everyone, it's David Haynes. We're here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for round 9 of the ChampCar iRacing series. Very hotly contested sim racing championship from the ChampCar Endurance Series. And at the end of the year, our points leader is getting a free entry into a real ChampCar Endurance Series race of their choice for 2021. We've also got a prize of the same value that's going to be given out randomly to one of our season-long competitors. So lots to race for tonight here in Canada. 1 hour race is ahead of us, but it's qualifying underway right now, and it is quite a hot day, quite a hot track out there, and that is making what is already a difficult and challenging course, I think, even more difficult for our competitors. We'll pick someone out in qualifying right along with them, and you will see the hills, the sweeping corners, and the undulations of this circuit. And who has just started a lap? I think David Warden is on pit lane, or is he out on circuit? Well, we'll have our director pick a car, and the car for today's championship race is, of course, the 2015 Mazda Mx-5 Miata, an NC, as is sometimes raced in the real series. So we're on board with the number 5, Jay Safianek. He's currently 10th in qualifying right now. 28 cars, 28 drivers out there at the minute. So in the top 10 is a good place to be for Jay Safianek, Club New York, who's looking to improve his time if he can. Long back straight here is going to provide a good opportunity for slipstreaming and a draft, but then the rest of the lap, quite technical, requires a lot of fine balance and a good feel on the brakes as well. So you can see how Jay is going through the final sector of the lap at the minute. And that has not worked out for him, I don't believe. Shows you how tough it can be, how hard you have to push. Luckily for him, he's still got about 7 minutes to get out there and try for another lap. Lap time at the top of the board for the minute is a 1 minute 38. So a shorter lap, and we're going to get more laps into our 1 hour race than we might at some of the other longer circuits we've visited in the championships so far. Speaking of those circuits, here at Mosport today, next championship round is 5th of August. We're going to VIR using the same Mazda once again, and then 9th of September at Indianapolis in the street stock. So plenty of races, plenty of rounds still to come in the year, an opportunity for our drivers to show what they are made of and get their eye in and get some practice around all of the fantastic North American road courses that the ChampCar Endurance Series visits. Seeing from the perspective of the 11th place runner Corey Barrett, just how difficult a lot of these really long sweeping, sometimes off camber, sometimes plunging downhill corners can be. And it's an old school circuit here, which I think everyone loves. There is not a lot to speak of for paid runoff. You can dip your tires in the grass very easily and find that there is absolutely no grip out there. Corey Barrett has decided that that lap is not going to be his lap, and he's pulled over and gone back to pit lane. Quite a few cars and other drivers have done so. The drivers out there at the minute, John Hurley, Mitchell Peake, David Palermo, and others. And hopefully it does indeed look like I have been joined by the man from the north. A happy Canada Day to Devin Peters.
Yes, too much festivities going on. Sorry for being late.
It's your country, it's your day. But I'm glad that you have joined us, because it is looking like it's going to be quite an interesting race ahead of us. Alex Coffard's on pole with a 138.3, but then there is 6 other drivers also in the 138. Short lap means quick lap times, means all the times are pretty close together, I think, Devin.
Yeah, and there hasn't been a ton of drop-off on the track today, so guys are still putting in competitive lap times even at this late point in the qualifying session.
Indeed, if anything, I've seen that the track temperature has dropped off a little bit since the start of the session, so right now is probably not a bad time to be out there as well. These cars can be quite sensitive to the track temperature. It was up around maybe 105, 110 almost Fahrenheit earlier. Now what is it, somewhere in the 90s? So that is, when you're talking about temperatures that hot, a little adjustment towards the cooler side can definitely help.
And these cars are pretty good with their new tire model. They've changed a little bit from what you might remember the last time you drove them, and they're a little bit more sensitive to the track than they used to.
Looking at David Warden, 22nd right now, but his last lap was his best lap, so he is right in the zone, and this one could yet be another further improvement. He is finding some time out there to help for his qualifying.
You can really see how hard it is to get these cars turned in, though, because if you don't have the setup just right, the rear end wants to come around on you, or the front end wants to wash out. And I think some of these guys are going to be struggling with that.
Yeah, certainly do. We had a last round at COTA, Circuit of the Americas, where the tyre longevity and the tyre balance was very interesting. The fast changes of directions there. Early in the stint, the drivers were having troubles with the rear tyres and the car being swapping ends very rapidly. But then later on in the runs, they were wearing off the front tyres a bit and struggling to get the car to want to go into the corners. So if we see the same thing again here, yeah, you've got to keep your wits about you as the balance of the car can shift throughout a race and even indeed through a qualifying run. So this circuit, Devin, tell us about it, because I've run over some of the character of the circuit, but a lot of history here, a great and interesting and challenging track.
Yeah, the coolest thing about Mosport is that it really hasn't changed a lot. Like a lot of these famous circuits, Laguna, Silverstone, they've seen a lot of different layouts over the years. Mosport is pretty much exactly as it was when they were running it back in the 70s and 80s. It's got some real nice flowing corners that take advantage of the terrain, a lot of off-camber stuff that's surprisingly tricky, and then of course Moss Corner, which is infamous for being so technical. It always feels like you can get more out of it down at the bottom of that hill. Warden here will be coming up on it shortly. Always feels like you can get more out of that braking zone until the moment you can't, and you come flying over that crest and sliding off into the gravel, and hopefully it stops at that.
Yeah, you're right. We're basically racing on exactly the same configuration as even historic Can-Am raced on decades and decades ago. So that is, as you rightly point out, pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like the track design, I don't know how formally it was done back then, but there was a lot of emphasis placed on the higher speed stuff. There's no real slow corners other than Moss here. No hairpins really, and so these guys are at a high speed all the way through the lap, which means that you see them really working on the wheel as they're drifting and sliding these cars. Honestly, a great pair.
Exactly. Checkered flag out right now. Our drivers are out on circuit, going to be able to finish their laps, but that draws to the end. the qualifying session before we head towards that 1 hour championship race ahead of us. Fuel limitation on board the cars means everyone is going to make a pit stop in the 1 hour race. Our top 6 in qualifying right now are all on pit lane. So who could possibly get out there and dislodge them? I think potentially lone Canadian in the field, Mitchell Peake, just finished a lap and improved himself. So he takes claim to 7th position on the grid there. But just 1 or 2 drivers out there still going to finish a lap. We're seeing William Corredor, Carlos Corredor, Neil Hancock, who we were looking at just now. He's coming towards the line. 24th. Can he improve on that at the final breath of this session? To the line, and the answer is regrettably no. Just within 1/10 of a second of his best time, but not an improvement. But again, all the track time you can get, all the laps you can complete is going to help you for the race, Devin.
Yeah, well, and looking at the times from the front of the field, I'm sure we'll be going through it shortly, but the top 8 are all within a second of each other, and in a car that's as draft heavy as this one, that guarantees us some close racing at the front.
Certainly does, with that big long back straight with the critical run out of Moss Corner, as you alluded to. Just 1 minute left, and the last car to complete a lap, Carlos Corredor. Going to see if it's an improvement from the number 10, and I do not believe it is.
And he won't want to take that line when we go into turn 1 again.
No, indeed not. So last car left out there as the final seconds tick down is Neil Hancock. We saw he completed his lap. It's not going to be another lap for him. He's just spending this time to make sure he's adjusted and ready for the race ahead of us. So in just a couple seconds, we're going to run through your full grid. 26 drivers set a qualifying time, which is great to see.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe one of those 2 that didn't set a lap. Anyway, it looks like on the pole today we've got Alex Crawford setting the fast lap with a 38.3, being followed by Bradley Daly with a 38.5. So 2 pretty smoking hot laps there. Crawford and Daly are both in the points contention. Crawford in 4th with Daly, I believe. He's in 6th in the points. Alex Albert, of course, is our points leader. He's starting from 3rd place today with John Hurley lining up behind him. Christopher Flamion is in 5th place with Justin Hall in 6th. Mitchell Peake in 7th place. Jacob Hillier in 8th. Chris Nicely, the first of the cars in the 39s, lines up in 9th place. Jay Sofianek is in 10th place. Corey Barrett lining up in 11th place with Paul T. Roddy in 12th. David Palermo in 13th, Aaron Thorpe in 14th, Scott Grinnell in 15th, Thomas Smith, first of the cars in the 40s, in 16th, Ernesto Carriosa in 17th, Charles Kowalczyk in 18th, Andrew Kosick in 19th, William Corredor in 20. I won't try and do the R's the way you do, David. Rob Craig in 21st, Carlos Corredor in 22nd, David Warden in 23rd, Neil Hancock in 24th, Javier Pinzon in 25th, and Nicholas Love in 26th.
Yeah, Andrew Fawcett and John Wexler were at the track earlier, did not set a qualifying time, and I'm not sure we have either of them on our starting grid. But behind the pace car, they're all pulling away from the grid, and in 1 lap's time, we'll drop the green flag, start the clock, and get racing. Talk briefly about the car. We're using 3 different cars across different rounds in this year's championship. This week, this round, it is this Mazda Mx-5. Great little car. As you pointed out, Devin, quite draft happy. If you can follow along in the wheel tracks of someone in front, you can definitely stick with them or be able to make a pass. Reasonably well balanced through the long corners that we have here. Everyone starting this race with the same setup with 4.2 gallons of fuel on board. That's not quite enough to get you to the end. So there is going to be a pit stop for everyone, but other than that, in that way, all of the cars are identical for today's race. We had a difference of strategy at COTA a couple of weeks ago, in some drivers took tyres, some didn't at their pit stop. It can adjust how long it takes for the pit stop, but can also affect how much grip you have right at the end of the race. It can be important. Of course, a very, very wide pit window amount of time that you have to make that pit stop. From very early in the race, you can be able to fuel the car to get to the end. The drivers who go as long as they can at this circuit might be pitting with about 25 minutes to go. That might be as late as we see them. It's going to be an interesting one. And Devin, any last minute predictions?
Well, I think we're just going to have a fun race up at the front. Keep your eye out for anyone saving fuel, because that'll make a big difference when it comes time to stop.
So we've got a lovely Porsche GT3 pace car about to pull off. And your front row of Alex Coffard and Bradley Daly will lead us to the green flag, lead us to the beginning of 60 minutes of racing at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. The green flag drops and Alex Coffard, he's been a bit swamped here, and it's been a great jump from Alex Albert, who's now already to the inside looking for the race lead from the second row of the grid. Oh, he wiggles there. He makes contact and pushes Coffard off. Coffard, your pole sitter, now in the barrier on the outside of turn one. Not a cracking start from him, and from that, Alex Albert got in there hot on the cold tyres, has also lost some positions as well. Not sure if there's much damage there, but now your race leader, Devin, is Bradley Daly.
Yeah, and I'm riding along with Alex Coffard here. He's got a little bit of damage on the hood, but it looks like the wheel's pretty straight, so he should be able to rejoin the back of the field. Hopefully he can make some time. He's coming up on a couple other cars that got tangled up in turn 2, David Warden and it looks like Ernesto Carriosa were both victims of an accident there.
Indeed. So big shuffle in lap 1, turn 1 at the front of the field. So your leader now, Bradley Daly. Second place is John Hurley. Flamium into third. Justin Hall in fourth. And Mitchell Peake has moved himself into the top 5 as they all come down the back straight. There's a couple of cars that have come together before the back straight, but it's clean now out the front of the field, and you can see them all following in a line because you just get that much extra time from the draft of the car in front.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to see Mitchell Peake making up a few spots there on lap 1, even if it had to come at the expense of a tragedy. It would make a nice storyline if the Canadian managed to pull out a win, and his first win in the series here on Canada Day.
Indeed, so 1 lap completed. Bradley Daly from second on the grid now leads the race. Justin Hall's making a move to the inside of turn 1, and I think that is a little bit more clean than we saw on lap 1. He's made that one stick, and the Floridian moves himself into third. Still hotly contested around not only the lead, but everywhere in our top 10. That's what we were hoping we were going to see at this circuit.
Yeah, and Alex Albert, you can see him peeking out into every corner behind Mitchell Peake. He's definitely putting the pressure on, and I've been on the receiving end of that from Alex a few times. He knows how to really wind you up while you're in the lead.
Indeed, so they come to the slowest corner, slowest section on the track. Mitchell Peake is going to defend that inside, and Alex Albert is trying to take a wider entry. The exit, very, very important off the slowest part of the circuit. And I think there is a move being shaped up here for 5th place as they all stream down the long back straight.
Yeah, we'll have to see if Mitchell gives them any room.
That we will have to see. The thing that's helping Peake, though, is he's getting a bit of a tow from Christopher Flamion as well. So nothing shifting just yet amongst those spots there, but maybe Peake will have to put the pressure on Flamion before Albert puts the pressure on Peake.
Yeah, but you could see it. You could see it in the lines there. Peake got a little bit behind the car, or behind the corners in the S's, and actually Flamion did as well. And it's really easy to do through that section of the track. You lose a lot in a momentum car like this when you start to do that, and that's why Alex is so glued to his bumper.
It's half a second for our top three as well. Bradley Daly's coming under pressure from John Hurley, and Justin Hall's also managed to catch them. So great battles there, as I think that is Corey Barrett has come unstuck from 7th place or so.
Yeah, I'm just watching the replay here, and it looks like he was
Turn 2,
unstuck.
he's coming too hot, right?
Yeah, and he got a little bit loose, and unfortunately he collected Chris nicely twice, because once wasn't nice enough, and Jacob Hillier got into him as well. It looks like all three of those cars will be able to continue on. One thing you can say about these NC boats is that they are relatively durable as far as their body panels go.
Yes, you saw that. There's sort of two apexes to the second turn. And between them, he's found a little bit of the grass. And as we said, not a lot of paved runoff here. And you do not want to be touching that grass. And unfortunately, Corey Barrett has paid a price.
Still watching that battle. Jay Sofianek, the number 5 car, is pulling out alongside David Palermo and now making it 3 wide. It must be something wrong. I think that Hillier must be down a little bit on top speed, or having some sort of issue anyway, because he's just let all 3 of those guys by, all 5 heading into the S's here.
Yeah, Hiller's going in on pit road right now because there's a lot of damage to the front of his car. I think he might have been one of the drivers who collected the sideways Corey Barrett. So we've got 2 drivers on pit road right now, Jacob Hiller, Chris Knisley, and actually Corey Barrett joins them as well. The good news for these guys, though, is they are going to get repairs done on their cars. They are going to be able to put some more fuel in. And from here, they might make it to the end of the race. There is room to spare in the fuel tank because they didn't start with a full tank. So these drivers, while that is not what you want to do in the opening couple of laps, it is not day done for them because everyone is going to have to make a pit stop at some point. These guys have had their hand forced, got it out of the way early.
Looks like Christopher Flammy and Mitchell Peak actually just collected each other in Moss. Mitchell's backing up, doing the Play Canadian thing, and he's going to try and rejoin. Yeah, and it looks like just under braking, a move gone wrong. As I think Mitchell was alongside. Yeah, Mitchell was alongside Flamian, and maybe Flamian didn't quite see him there. It looked like Mitchell missed the apex a little bit too, though, as he got out wide and collected Flamian.
It certainly looks like Peak might have missed his braking marker or come in a bit too hot, and he's just sort of unfortunately helped Chris Flamian around. Alex Albert was eyes on stalks, head on a swivel, smart enough to dodge those 2 and move himself up into 4th place. So he did have to roll out of the throttle for a bit, and he's lost a bit of time to the top 3 who continue battling. Within half a second for your top 3, you love to see it.
Yeah, well, and 2.5 seconds back, that's far enough back that he won't have a draft, so he's going to have to depend on them pushing each other around in order to catch up. It's an understandable mistake, though, from Mitchell, because that corner, like I said in the pre-races, is one that, you always feel like you can get a little bit more, but you can't always get a little bit more when you get your foot on that brake pedal.
Since we checked in last, Hall has moved ahead of Hurley for 2nd place here. As Alex Albert gets all of the grass and a big drift in the background. He's pushing hard to try and catch the lead, but he's pushed a bit too hard. Luckily, he's had the rally across experience there to keep it pointing the correct way and keep it out of the barriers. But again, not the fastest line. Not having the fastest line is Bradley Daly out of Moss. Justin Hall is on a charge up through the field, and I think he's in a great position to maybe grab himself that top spot in a minute, Devon.
Well, yeah, and considering he started the race in 6th, it's obviously great for him to be moving up into 2nd here, but also from a points perspective, this is a pretty big one for him. He's currently 3rd place in the points overall on the year, battling with Bradley Daly in 6th in the points. If he can make some points out of this and, have Alex Albert continue to have some issues, he can make up some ground in this championship.
He had a little bit of a look for the lead, but he wasn't close enough, and it's not a heavy enough braking zone in these cars really to do anything at the end of the straight there unless you have a massive tow. So Hall is thinking, looking, and definitely trying to put the pressure on your leading man, Bradley Daly. And of course, Hurley is not getting dropped by these two guys either. Probably not a bad place to be, third place watching first and second fight.
Yeah, and like I said at the start, saving some fuel more than likely too. There's a lot of time on this track, all the way up that Andretti straightaway, where you can run at 70% throttle in the draft and save yourself a bundle.
Certainly. So the state of play here at Mosport, great battle for the top three, and then fourth place, Alex Albert trying to catch them, but didn't make any inroads on the last lap.
Yeah, and actually gave up a little bit. I think he gave up about a second on the last lap because of that little mistake coming out of turn number 3. Which is called Quebec Corner, and I could not tell you why.
Also, a little battle, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Safianek, Thorpe, Grinnell. Safianek's actually right behind the one lap down David Palermo here, who doesn't actually seem to be impeding him too much, but there is plenty of good little battles around the field. We've got our 3 for the top 3, but then also battling for 5th here, Safianek, Thorpe, and Scott Grinnell. And I do believe Grinnell and Bradley Daly to be teammates. So they've got, I think, 2 V-Apex cars in the top 10 at the minute.
Yeah, and Andrew Fawcett, who had that wreck on lap, who started from 27th on the grid, has actually had a pretty successful race up to this point. He just put a move on Charles Kowalczyk before the start-finish line to get himself into the top 10. So considering he started the race as far back as he did, he's got to be pretty happy with how it's gone so far. Commentator's curse, he goes off in the grass with all 4, manages to keep it together though. We'll see the spot, but still feeling pretty good. Must have heard me say his name on the broadcast, yeah.
Hall to the front of the pack. Hurley up into second. I think Bradley Daly might have pushed a little too hard, had a little drama, lost some time on this lap because he's dropped from first back to third and then elevated Hall and Hurley up a spot each. But is Hall going to hold on to that one? Is Hurley going to be patient? Because there is nothing to separate your top 3. It's 0.2 of a second for 3 cars and they're bump drafting for the lead.
And Justin Hall got a little bit wider, able to hold the tighter line through there. We'll see how it shakes out on the far side of the S's, though. And yeah, it looks like Bradley Daly just ran a little bit wide coming out of Quebec that last lap, and so had to wait a little to get on the throttle, which gave these two the opening. Lap traffic ahead, too.
Well, we said short lap and a fast lap here, especially compared to the full Grand Prix layout of Circuit of the Americas where we were last round. We have 24 cars still left running in the race, but it's not a huge track to spread them around. Traffic happens quicker here, and we are seeing Justin Hall's going to go to the inside. Hurley's going to follow through, and Bradley Daly probably not going to lose much time, if any, to that.
Yeah, and
Rob Craig in the number 1 car, just staying out of everyone's way.
I'm actually jump back to 7th place here. Soon to be 6th place. Christopher Flamian actually has been trying to put a move on the car on his inside, Aaron Thorpe, for the past 5 or 6 corners. And now they've both slowed themselves down enough that Mitchell Peak's going to go up the middle. Ooh, pretty big contact there. It looks like Mitchell's going to survive. I don't know if Thorpe's car got bent from that. But Flamian and Thorpe have been going back and forth for more than a few corners. And of course, Flamian and Peak took each other out just a few laps ago. I guess Peak took Flamian out. So, of course, they're still together and no love lost between those two.
Yeah, Peak definitely took Flamian out for a rip on that previous instance. But now the two of them are obviously very quick. They are coming up through the field a little bit here and trying to grab 5th from Safianek. She's just up the road from them.
And we'll see. It seemed like Flamian and Peak, the big difference was they were making up a lot of time through the S's, and you can kind of see that on camera. Flamian runs wide. Peak's going to get a run here into turn 1. Makes the move up
He
the
is.
inside.
So side by side into turn one, and I think that has been measured and controlled from Peak, who does get that spot back. Plenty of places to look if you want some action in this race for the minute. This great battle that we have been watching, they are still oh so close for the top three.
Really comes back though to the history of this track. I mean, yeah, all these medium speed corners that are really tough to nail, especially when you don't have any downforce helping you out.
And Devin, you sold this place short earlier. The layout has been untouched, unchanged since the track opened in 1961.
61. Okay, I couldn't remember if they ran in the 60s. I knew they did the 70s, but I haven't done enough research. Clearly, got to spend more time in the library on Canada.
Yeah, indeed. Top three ever so close, different lines at the end of the back straight and in towards these S's here. Hurley, I don't know if he was just trying to defend from Daly or if he was, just trying to get in the mirrors of Justin Hall. I think you've got to be quite large looming in the mirrors if you're going to distract our boy Justy that easily.
Yeah, when he's got a lead, he tends to hold on to him. He's very focused. Oh, as they come across the car facing the wrong way. Who's that? That looks like Paul T.
719. Yeah. Unfortunate for Paul Roddy.
Yeah. And I'm following him along on my cameras. Looks like he just ran a little bit wide, and you put those rear tires over the curb on the exit of turn one, and it's easy enough to spin yourself into the inside wall like he did. He impacted pretty hard. I'm not sure if that car will be... it looks like it's a little bent. It looks pretty bent. Yeah, he's not going to be making many fast laps that way. Hopefully he can get it back to the pits.
So while we're watching that, Justin Hall, John Hurley still very close. Bradley Daly has once again just pushed it a little too hard. He's dropped back a smidge, and he might almost form the bridge between the lead and Alex Albert, who's been very rapid and closing in on the lead. They're side by side for said lead. Hall's on the inside. Hurley has his nose in front around the outside and swoops himself into the lead. I think it's a Danger Racing livery and paint he is wearing today. One that is, I think, familiar with being at the lead in ChampCar every now and again.
Yeah, I think he spent a few laps up front for sure. That was a real nice move. There's so many intricacies to these corners. Like, for example, coming up to turn number 2 here, it starts out just off camber, and you're kind of sliding, falling off the track on the way into it. But then as you get into the second half of the corner and kind of the second apex, the camber reverses direction, and all of a sudden it's like an oval, and you're full throttle from the second half of the corner on. And it's just so subtle on this track, and there's so many ways to get it more right or more wrong than the guy beside you. A move like what he pulled, getting that little draft and getting alongside, he was just able to take advantage of it.
Indeed, and quick stuff from Bradley Daly as well makes it a proper 3-car fight, and Alex Albert, who previously was 4.5 seconds away from the lead, is now just 2.2 seconds off the lead. This is definitely a race I think that's going to have some sting in its tail and some intrigue, and none of them have made a pit stop yet. We are now 28 minutes into the 18 minutes into the race, getting much closer towards the regular expected pit window, maybe from about 5 minutes before halfway.
Yeah, I haven't seen anyone that hasn't needed to make a move for it yet, but we'll keep an eye on that pit lane for sure.
Action on the track, though, as Hall goes round the outside of Hurley, becomes the inside, and Hall back to the lead there. And part of it, I think, John Hurley got a little spooked as Hall then goes off the circuit, but Hurley also jumped over the curbs, and so it is close and intriguing at the front, but they are costing each other time, bottling each other up. And Albert is the Jaws music playing in the background for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a smile on his face seeing those guys battling as hard as they are. He's been running some real clean, consistent laps without the draft, and 1.9 seconds back. By the second half of this lap, he might very well be in their draft. Heck, after this corner, he might be in their draft.
Oh, Justin Hall wide in the grass, loses the lead. And now he's back into third. Is he even going to hold on to third is the question, as Alex Albert has a look to the inside, dives on through, and just a little mistake costs about 2 seconds, costs 3 positions for Justin Hall, the Floridian.
Yeah, and you could tell, I was talking about how Justin Hall doesn't like to let people by necessarily from the lead earlier, and he was a little bit non-committal on picking his side of the track there, and Alex Albert had to make a pretty aggressive move to the inside on the entry to turn number 4 there before Moss in order to make that move stick. If I'm Alex, I'm not super happy about that one.
Great racing today. The lead is John Hurley. He's under pressure from Bradley Daly, who's been able to pull out some very rapid laps from time to time, but does he have the consistency? And now it is all 4 cars up front within a second and a half, as Albert and Hall showing that they got speed. This is going to be one to watch, and then they also, in the back of their mind, are thinking about when's the right time to pit when you're in a pack like this. Do you want to stick it out as long as you can, or do any of them think that maybe coming in a little bit early, maybe going for new tires, might help them pull a strategy blinder and get the win?
Actually, 6th place, 5th and 6th place just came together real hard. Oh, and that's a real bummer. Mitchell Peak, the lone Canadian hope in the top 5. As he was exiting turn number 1, Chris Flamion got loose and Mitchell Peak got into him again. Those two just can't stay apart, and looks like Peak's blowing a motor at the end of the whole ordeal, and I'm guessing that Flamion's pretty bent up as well. Yeah, that car's not very straight for sure.
So the two make contact once again, and that was another classic case of the curbs and grass are deadly around here, and Mitchell Peak had nowhere to go when Flamion's car slid and then snapped back. It's a shame. Both of those guys have been very quick, and they're just tangled amongst each other, and it's cost both of them very, very dearly.
Yeah, we might not get our fairy tale story today, but I'm sure that Mitch will be able to make up some spots after towing back to the pits there. Anyway, speaking of the pits, you were just kind of getting into it there before that moment in action, and I was just going to observe that our fastest cars on track, who qualified in the low 38s, are now running lap times closer to 40s and even sometimes 41s. So there is some tire fall off here. I'm not sure if there's enough to justify tires, but it will be interesting to see, because that might be a choice that some of these guys are thinking about, maybe even just at one end of the car.
You know what, Devin, about this track compared to almost any others, normally we're saying, do you take 4 tires or do you take no tires? This track, you might think about left side tires. You really might, just because of how many loaded right-hand turns there are here. And of course, in the pit stop sequence, these cars get jacked up the left side and then jacked on the right side. If you're taking just 2, you might be able to take 2 tires within the amount of time it takes to take the fuel and effectively get them for free.
Yeah, and that's the arithmetic these guys are going to have to do. I know Alex Albert is going to be looking for some sort of edge, because even though he has been running some fast laps, it looks like John Hurley and Bradley Daly have decided to calm down a little bit and stick together. And as I say that, Bradley Daly takes a look outside, but I've decided to stick together and build up their gap a little bit. So I wonder if we'll see them try and build some gap before they finally decide to dive into the pits. Only teammate's the guy right behind you in a race like this. And so you kind of got to stay together if you see the other guy going in.
Yes, we've had quite a few leaders in the race now. John Hurley scores another lap led. Bradley Daly has led some, so too has Justin Hall. Now in third,
we might have finally a moment to breathe after a very action-packed sequence at the start of this race.
I'm looking up and down the timesheet here about which drivers who've pitted already I think can get to the end. And Christopher Flamion in 16th, I say definitely. Knisley in 15th, I'd say for sure. Hiller and Barrett, I've got question marks about, because from what I see, they may have only taken 5 or 6 seconds of fuel when they pitted early in this race. So I'm just wondering who the dark horses might be that maybe find their way back into the top 10 once our leaders and the mid-pack all have to pit. I think it's only about 10 minutes or so left before everyone's going to have to pit, starting with just about 4 gallons of fuel. Probably only gets you 35 minutes or so into the race.
Yeah, and we will have to see. Jury might still be out on Hiller and Barrett there, because I think both of those guys may have had to tow when they came and did their stop. So it's possible that the pit timer is a little bit messed up from that. I'm not entirely sure how it does all the calculations.
No, good question. And so I think you do still write a question mark next to them on, are they going to need one more pit stop, or are they good? Everyone who hasn't pitted, though, we can confirm and definitely say they will need a stop at some point. And it seems like, you know, with the short lap here and some traffic out there, people aren't favoring the undercut. Everyone looks like they want to go as long as they possibly can before they have to dive onto pit road.
Well, there's one exception to that rule that I'll give you. Number 27, Andrew Fawcett, actually just came up on the back of Aaron Thorpe and looked like he was going to continue his big run to the front, and he's now our first taker in the top 10 who's made a decision to go to pit lane. There's been a few others that have had to go to pit lane, and it looks like he's taking 2 and 4 tires, so he has decided that it will be worth it. Now, Fawcett, coming from 27th, may have put a little bit more heat into those tires than the rest of the field, but he is certainly taking that. And you know what? He's still sitting there, which makes me think the tires might even be free with the amount of fuel that these guys have calculated they need before the end of the race.
Always a question mark about exactly how much fuel you might need to take, and Fawcett, if he's decided that 30 seconds of fuel is how much is needed, then we can say Hiller and Barrett aren't going to make it.
Yeah, and actually that puts up a question mark for Chris Nicely as well. Yeah,
if the numbers we're being fed are accurate, which they not always are. I think you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, and that puts a question mark next to Chris Nicely as well, who only took 24 seconds of fuel from what we can tell as well. Anyway,
it's getting spicy up the front once again, though. I've seen Bradley Daly sort of pushing John Hurley along, but it hasn't been enough to stop Albert and Hall from just closing them about 6 or 7 tenths on the last lap as well. And of course, your most important laps in a race that features a pit stop is the couple of laps before you pit and then that out lap. So they want to do everything they can right now to close that gap up nice and close, knowing that pit stops are imminent for everyone in our top 10.
Yeah, and I really got to say, I think that Alex Albert might be the fastest car on track right now. Justin Hall is keeping up with him just barely, and I think getting his fair share of assistance from the draft. But as the car's tires get really hot towards the end of this stint, Alex Albert is driving that car sideways through every corner, and we can see it, you know, taking cars lengths and cars lengths and cars lengths out of the guys ahead.
Yeah, indeed, anyone's race still, especially of these top 4. Down that Andretti straight, Hurley leads, Daly gets right to his bumper and starts pushing him along, and they have to take different lines on the way into the corner, and I think that has compromised them a little bit. How aggressive Alex Albert's able to throw the car into those long sweeping corners, and sort of you're slowing down with each apex you come across, and Albert's now within 1 second of the lead.
Yeah, it really puts a smile on the face to see cars drifting the way these guys are. It looks
More
like
guys on pit road, Devin.
Oh, yeah?
Neil Hancock and Andrew Kosick have just taken service and left. 27 seconds of fuel for Andrew Kosick. So it's pretty confident there.
Yeah, well, and we don't know who's doing the math for these guys, so it's always interesting to see what different guys' mental math decides is the right amount.
Charles Kowalczyk from 8th is also going to dive onto the lane. So as we are a minute away from the halfway point of this race, quite a few drivers are deciding right now is the time to get on the radio to your crew chief and say, fuel please, and tires yes or no.
Yeah, it looks... I think that tires are going to be free for the folks that have done the math, because I'm watching Charles Kowalczyk and he's just come down after taking left side lights and he's still sitting another few seconds. So I think these guys can take tires if they decide they want them, and looking at the lap times, you probably want them.
So coming by pit in, our leading cars, and I think that's Bradley Daly going for it, and he's followed by Alex Albert. So John Hurley stays out in the lead, but the other three drivers from our leading pack on pit road now as we enter the second half of this race.
And I really like the way that Bradley Daly set up his line through the S's in order to exit right onto the pit lane. That was well done on his part. Oh, but
then he missed the
tragically
pit box.
misses the pit box. That's a bummer. That's going to cost him a second. And you can see it. His car is up a second later than Alex Albert's onto those right side tires as they replace the lefts.
It's so easy to do, but you've got to be right in your box before the pit crew can start their service, and Daly overshooting, finding reverse gear, and then getting it backwards and getting in his box is probably going to cost him there, as Hall leaves ahead of Albert. Albert leaves ahead of Daly. Fastest pit stop of all of them from Justin Hall.
Yeah, and he's only taken 25 seconds of fuel, but you know, he did spend a lot of time in that third place watching the leaders.
And he did get all 4 tires as well. So he's they've all gone tires. It's just a matter of how much fuel do you think you need. So that is basically those 3 drivers leave pit road in the opposite order that they entered. A good pit stop from Hall, a good pit stop from Albert, and a bit of egg on his face for Bradley Daly, unfortunately. These guys, cold tires now, have to be so careful not to loop the car around as they get the temperatures and pressures up.
And I've just watched John Hurley drive past the entrance again, so clearly he was able to save some fuel in the first half, and he's going to stretch it as long as he can go. He's still running respectable laps, 140s, but got to think that those other guys will have a little advantage once their tires get up to temp.
Yeah, well, fastest guy that lap around is 7th place Andrew Fawcett. You know, we talked about when he pitted 3 laps ago. So his tyres right where he wants them right now. He's the fastest driver out there because he's gotten those tyres in exactly how he would want them.
Yeah, and like you said, the undercut, it can work out in a scenario like this. Andrew Fawcett has, by my calculations, made up about 20 seconds on Aaron Thorpe, who pitted just 3 laps later than him. I think Thorpe took a bit of a long pit stop, but that...
you lead Hurley sideways at Moss. He caught a little bit of the grass, and it spun him sideways and then across the curb. Bit of damage on the front of the car, but he'll be able to get that fixed very, very easily when he comes to his pit stop shortly. But he's, you know, pushed hard on those old tires, and the replay shows the results. It's only cost him a couple seconds, but the finest of margins amongst all of our top 4, that's costly.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons that we don't see a lot of top flight series still racing at Mosport is some of the antiquated safety fixtures around the track, you could say, and that giant bump on the inside of Moss has got to be one of those. He really launched himself off that thing when he hit it, and I hope that in real life they've sent out a Bobcat to knock that thing down.
So he is on pit road, and that means everyone in this race has now been onto pit road for their service. John Hurley, is he going to get smoothly into his box? He is. They fix the nose on that car, and the left side goes up. Fueling has already begun. So how much fuel is he going to need? Where will he come out compared to your race-leading contenders, Justin Hall, Alex Albert, and Bradley Daly?
Justin Hall's had to take a very defensive line to keep Alex Albert from passing him through the S's there. But both of them are coming past the straightaway before John Hurley even gets them moving. So it looks like the damage has been done a little bit to John Hurley's hopes, and he might be racing with Bradley Daly or even a few seconds behind him by the time this shakes out.
Yeah, so it does appear that little error on his in-lap has cost him a couple of seconds, and staying out on the old tyres hasn't actually benefited him, as Hall and Albert just set 39.3 and a 39.1 respectively, seconds faster than they were doing before that pit stop. So yeah, those new tyres have been very strong, very key, and they just haven't made that little error that has now dropped John Hurley back into fourth.
Yeah, and quietly, using the undercut, Andrew Fawcett has managed to sneak his way up into fifth place, about 30 seconds behind the leaders, but with a reasonable cushion to the guys behind, 4 or 5, maybe 2 seconds back to Jay Sofianek, who's currently in sixth place after spending a few laps in the top 3 due to the pit cycle.
So 24 minutes to go. Everyone's made their pit stops, and it is half a second between Justin Hall and Alex Albert. And I think they were pretty friendly to each other in the first half of this race. But the smaller the number on that clock, and as we approach the checkered flag, I think it does become a little bit more every man for himself.
Yeah, and these two are wearing different liveries today, but they are teammates and race each other pretty regularly across a wide variety of series, as well as doing endurance stuff together. But I already saw at least Justin Hall cut off Alex Albert for the second time in the S's last lap, and Alex Albert, not an angry man by any stretch, but a man with a limited patience like anyone else, and he might get tired of that kind of stuff coming from Justin pretty quick here.
Every man has his limits, Devon, I think. So it is just down to 2/10 between these, and unfortunately the lead battle has shed Bradley Daly and has shed John Hurley, but it is no walk in the park for the win for either of these guys, who have, I think, the best part of 15 laps of racing still to get to the end.
Yeah, and there are no free laps around this place. I mean, every single corner you're so on edge in this car. It's really, really easy to make a mistake just by getting, a millimeter or even a few centimeters of tire onto the grass.
Yeah, and the commitment in turn 2 is something you need to throw the car over the crest blindly and then hope that it grips in the middle of the corner. Here's a little half-hearted look at a move for the lead from Alex Albert, who then maybe thinks better of it. It is still early with plenty of time to go, but he's there, he won't be shaken, and he's just moving around, feeling out what could be a move for the lead.
Well, and I think Alex is doing the same arithmetic that Bradley Daly and John Hurley were doing earlier, where he realizes that if he stays in line behind Justin Hall for, say, 10, 15 more minutes, he's got a much better chance at that top 2 than he does if they decide to really start battling and slow down, letting Bradley Daly and John Hurley back into the race.
Big movers in the field other than Andrew Fawcett, our biggest mover, who's up 22 spots after not qualifying. Scott Grinnell's up 8. Aaron Thorpe is up 6, and it looks like Neil Hancock is up 11. So now that everyone's made their pit stops, the race pace and the strategy know-how, I think, shines through compared to just banging in one quick qualifying lap and having the guts to keep it pinned where it mattered.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm not sure what's happened to Mitchell Peak, who was a contender early on in this race, but now 8 laps down, it looks like that car's been more or less retired.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too. Basically, the plug pulled on that one. Still status quo, first and second. I'm keeping an eye on maybe if that late stop for the tyres for John Hurley might help him be a bit quicker once everyone else has worn theirs down. Maybe he can come back at Bradley Daly later in the race and still stand on the podium. Unfortunately, it does look like that's the best he could hope for at the minute, though.
Yeah, but there is still a lot of lap traffic on the track. Every car after 14th place is now a lap down or more. And with those cars around, all it takes is one on the wrong apex in front of you, and all of a sudden you get way out of shape and lose a lot of time around here.
Yeah, not over till it's over. That is always true of any kind of motorsport or racing. And Hurley did close a second on Daly on that lap just completed. So I think don't count them out for a little bit of a scrap.
Yeah, and Andrew Fawcett and Jay Sofianek are still, pretty close together as well. About a second, 2 seconds separating the two of them. But again, they're both going to be fighting through lap traffic as well, so it could easily come together in the last part of this race. Aaron Thorpe and Jacob Hillier have actually been going back and forth a few times as well in 8th and 9th place, and they're too wide as they head down to the stripe here, heading into turn number 1. Aaron Thorpe having just lost a spot to Jacob Hillier on that lap.
Letting me know I was pronouncing the letters that were there for another driver's name. Now you're inventing ones that don't exist in Hiller.
Sorry, it's that Quebec corner. It keeps putting an extra IER in there.
Yeah. A bit wide of the apex, or maybe going for a late apex there for Hiller. These two are continuing to fight here. Club Texas for Jacob Hiller and Club New York for Aaron Thorpe. So there is a lot of little two-car battles inside the top 10. There's the lead, there's 3rd place, there's 5th place, and there's 8th place. Action for everyone who's turned out to race today.
Yeah, and you mentioned Neil Hancock as one of our big gainers earlier as well, and he's slowly pushing his way up towards William Corridor, who's in 12th place. Hancock, of course, running Lucky 13 right now. So it'll be a possibility that those two get close enough together to see some action before the end of this race as well.
Third place, John Hurley absolutely has caught Bradley Daly and was a second and a half faster on the last lap. So 1 second faster, then 1.5 seconds faster. That is massive speed from Hurley. He's got to the back bumper of Daly, but from there, is a move actually going to come to pass?
I've got to think Bradley Daly has kind of lost a little bit of pace relative to what he had in the first half. And I don't know if he cooked his tires early on in this stint, but yeah, you're absolutely right that John Hurley's been flying relative to the rest of the field, and also especially relative to Bradley Daly, who's been running closer to 140 than he has been to 138, which is kind of the pace of the field right? The leaders anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I see no damage for Daly, so it has to come down to the tyres or something. There's a little miscommunication there with Cariosa, I think it was, who thought he was maybe going to cede the racing line. Daly was trying to, make the overtake fair and square, as you'd expect, but eventually Daly and Hurley get through, no contact is made. Wide entry from Daly, narrow entry from Hurley.
It's really wild to see how two different lines, like two wildly different lines, can end up so similar at this track.
It's a completely blind entry to that corner. You can just see the crest of the hill, and you got to know the track goes left and ducks down on the other side of that hill. You'd feel it in your chest going over that hill, turning that side, and even here you've got to just have the practice and believe.
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to do this track in real life, but I'm willing to bet that my first, I'm going to say 20 to 50 times over that corner are going to be pretty timid. It's a real intimidating one, and a real fast place too to have any sort of incident. And we can't discount our leaders. Alex Albert is still right on Justin Hall's bumper, though their strategy of staying in line, whether it's because Alex needs to save some fuel or what, it does seem to be paying off, because they are continuing to grow their gap, now up to 8 seconds between them and Bradley Daly, and maybe even a little bit more at the line this time if they don't start fighting.
Yeah, they're still lapping in the 39s for the most part. Bit of traffic here for Hall. He is going to end up trying to swoop around the outside of the 56 of Neil Hancock. So first and second have lapped all the way up to about 12th place at this moment.
You know what? And I promised the fans that I'd keep an eye on what was going on between Neil Hancock and William Corridor, but I actually missed the moment where William Corridor ran wide in turn 2, presumably while we were talking about it, and allowed Neil Hancock to get by, promoting him up into 12th place.
It's just a couple tenths at the lead here. I think they started 10 laps to go when they crossed the line last time. So of this 60-minute race, just 1/4 remains, and I'm seeing Alex Albert pushing Justin Hall along once again. There's been a bit of bump drafting out there today.
Yeah, and I have actually just noticed that Mitchell Peake has rejoined the race. You've got to forgive me, he's the older Canadian, so I've been keeping an eye on him. But he has rejoined the race, so I'm not sure. Hopefully this isn't for nefarious reasons, but he is back out on track and lapping again, so good to see, and I hope he's enjoying his Canada Day, even if this race isn't going so hot. And of course, I talk about Mitchell Peake down in 20-something, 23rd, as John Hurley actually manages to overtake Bradley Daly through the S's that time.
Yeah, so that was a couple laps in the making, but John Hurley, as you point out, is now up into 3rd place. He's got a couple car lengths over Daly now.
It'll be interesting to see if he can keep those fast laps going. He was, again, another half second faster than Bradley Daly that lap. That might have been in part because of the passing move, but he was also still about 3/10 faster than the guys in front, who appeared to be more or less cooperating to try and keep their positions together. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to make a move up on those guys as we count down into the final 10-12 minutes here. 13 minutes, my apologies.
Time flies when you're having fun, Devon, and John Hurley is flying because his last lap was actually the fastest car out there on that particular one. So I think while he lost out a bit by staying out longer on those older tyres, now right at the end, freshest tyres of anyone, as the number 10 jumps across the curb in front of him there. That's Carlos Corredor.
Oh, and Neil Hancock's having a little issue just up ahead of him. And Neil Hancock and William Corridor have been going back and forth a little bit. And I'm not going to lie, it kind of looked like to me like Carlos Corridor was trying to help out with William as they were lapping him. And anything, one thing led to another, and all of a sudden he was flying across the apex in front of John Hurley there. So as we promised, passing the lappers never without any danger. And well, John Hurley's got 2 more in front of him, so we'll see what he's able to do as he tries to slice his way through the field. Now down to only 7 seconds behind Justin and Alex.
Yeah, all 4 in the air doesn't give you a whole lot of control in that moment, but it feels like all 4 on the grass is probably about the same amount of grip in some circumstances as well.
Yeah, and it's often a wet track out here. I'm sure iRacing is modeling that. Ooh, as John Hurley makes contact, That's one way to get around.
I think it started between Corredor and Hancock there, and Hurley's just tried to pick a line on through.
Yeah,
Definitely take a look at a replay on that one when we can, because they just all stack up in that slowest corner of the circuit.
You know what?
And,
Hancock got on the brakes pretty hard and turned in a bit late, and I think Corridor thought he had room to make an overtake. Of course, Hancock was just missing the apex. He wasn't actually leaving the lane open, and the two of them, Corridor trying to overtake Hancock led to Corridor checking up, getting tagged by John Hurley, which sent Hancock and Corridor spinning. Yeah, I did it.
Snooker move.
Yeah. Hopefully,
looking here, battle for 5th and 6th. Andrew Fawcett, you said early stop got him up into 5th, but now his tyres must be absolutely feeling it. So they are 4 laps older than Sophia Neck, who is trying to get himself into the top 5. So cracking battle between these two. And Fawcett will be just hoping the time ticks away as fast as possible. But it is, I think, 7 laps to go for these two. That is quite some time still to try and keep your defense up.
Yeah, and Sophia Neck actually had him at the line last time back, but Fawcett was able to make a move in part thanks to some lap traffic help. So it's definitely been going back and forth between those guys.
There's been a swap for the lead. I do believe that between the start-finish line and now, Alex Albert has gotten ahead of Justin Hall.
Yeah, he just got a better run out of Quebec than Justin Hall did. That's turn number 3, and he was able to power right by him. I guess Justin got a little bit loose trying to find that apex in the middle, but anyway, we know that Justin Hall won't like that, and he'll be trying to get back by.
Yep, still right with him for 1st and 2nd, as within the last 10 minutes of the race now. There is still plenty going on, which I love to see.
That's because he picked such a good spot for the race.
Only because it's your day, I'll give you that one unquestioned. Hurley in 3rd has managed to break away from Bradley Daly, I think, as well. So that's sort of your action inside of the top 5. Is this battle 1st and 2nd. We've had that fight for 3rd, and Fawcett still under a lot of pressure, 5th and 6th. So does tantalizingly promise that a lot could still happen in these final minutes of the race here, which is round 9 of the ChampCar iRacing series.
And Justin Hall is trying everything to get around Alex Albert right now. Alex Albert running some very defensive lines and giving up some time, but so far Justin Hall hasn't been able to make an advantage out of it.
Yeah, all of the track and then some for your points leader, as he got a little bit of the grass on the exit of Moss, but he's absolutely trying to maximize that run onto the Andretti straight, onto the back straight. That is a critical part of the racetrack to make sure you keep your speed and your momentum up. Because Hall continues to pull in the draft, but I just don't think was close enough for a move. He gives a little bit of the Morse code right before the braking zone. But, yeah, not close enough, because Albert is doing the right things in the right places to hold on to that lead, even though it's only a couple tenths between them.
And there is a few other battles in the top 10 here. Until just moments ago, Jay Sofianek and Andrew Fawcett were battling very closely for 5th and 6th. And that was after Sofianek managed to run Fawcett down. He's just had a little moment going into Moss and now giving up about 2 seconds, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them glue back together again. And Jacob Hiller, not Hillier, is still ahead of Aaron Thorpe, though Aaron Thorpe is giving it his college try and has managed to suck his way up to within 4 tenths of Jacob Hiller the last time across the line.
Oh, tyres on the grass. Big wiggle for your leader, Alex Albert. That's really cost his momentum out of Quebec corner. So they go side by side for the lead, and swooping around the outside, Justin Hall gets it back with 5 laps to go. Nothing can be taken for granted at this circuit. Those corners are difficult. The grass is slippery, and the tyres are continuing to wear off for these two.
You know, and Justin Hall framed up that move last time by, and it looks like Alex Albert's just going to push him down the straightaway here. But yeah, he framed up that move last time by, but didn't end up going for it. And then Alex Albert made the same mistake going into Quebec corner and slid out wide on the exit, letting Justin Hall by this time. So I wonder if, you know, maybe that's just a little chink in the armor that Justin Hall has been able to find.
Oh, they are definitely still fighting it. So is what we love to see. Just a couple laps now to go. And Hall is going to try and hold on for that win, I think. Six minutes to go means 4 laps to go at the pace that they are doing. And that pace has dropped off a little bit from their best. Hall has the fastest lap of the race, the 38.1. That lap just gone, a 140.7. So the tyres do wear, and he had to fight to get to the lead on that lap as well.
And Hurley did take a bite out of both of them, gaining almost a half second that time. He's still 7
Alex
seconds
showing
back.
the nose. Albert showed the nose into turn 2 there. Didn't work. Didn't scare Justin Hall. They are just racing so hard, so close. You couldn't fit another car in there between them for first and second at the minute. And this is what you want to see in these 60-minute races. You want to see racing from start to finish. You want to see some battles. You want some battles at the end, and even better if it's this battle for the lead.
Yeah, and these two are really eking out every last bit of these tires' lives. They are, I'm not sure it goes through on the cameras, but you can really tell that these guys are you know, sliding 20, 30-degree slip angles into these corners. You know, almost looks like they're drifting sometimes through the S's.
Change of direction, sometimes they do kick the tail out a little bit. It's about to complete one more lap through the sort of tightening and technical sort of final section of the lap here.
Yeah, gotta nail that run out of the corner.
Certainly do. 0.3 of a second, 2.5 of a second as they crossed the line there. Lap times near identical first and second as they continue to fly in formation.
Yeah, and another 0.3 for Hurley that time by.
Real shame for Hurley about that mistake on his in lap, and maybe the strategy wasn't on point, because he has been very quick and very competitive in this car at this track. Third place, if he holds on to it, I think will be well deserved, but he's shown he definitely had the pace to fight with the big guys.
Oh, Alex Albert bump drafting into corner number 4. That is a precarious moment. Justin Hall managing to hold it reasonably well.
Too hot into Moss. And they are side by side in the middle of the corner. Alex Albert slides his way back into the lead, and that was easily done. Anyone who's raced here has done that once, just coming in a little bit too hot up the hill. He's gone wide, but crucially, no damage. He's still right there in the draft of the leader, Alex Albert. Still just 0.2 in it. They've swapped order.
Yeah, and Alex Albert showing some of that wily veteran stuff there. He sent Justin Hall into that corner about 3 miles per hour faster, I'm going to bet, than usual, with that little bump draft at the top of the hill. And so Justin Hall, breaking at his normal braking point, slid right on by the apex. We'll see if he's able to make a move on Alex in these closing laps.
And with 2 laps to go, there's still also that battle between Andrew Force and Jake Safianek for 5th. Talking about, you know, the tyre life, the age of the tyres, and Fawcett was one of the early pitters. Safianek was one of the late pitters. Safianek certainly has a little bit more grip underneath him if he can consistently use it.
Yeah, he has managed to track Fawcett down from that 2-second gap that I spoke of last time we checked in on them. And our leaders are definitely suffering from that lack of grip. But both Justin Hall and Alex Albert were all 4 tires off on the exit of turn 1 there, as Justin Hall reels Alex back in. 1.5 to go, and they're still pushing hard.
Indeed. So a tense final lap for everyone is what we're looking forward to. It's going to be the white flag at the end of this one. It is half a second for the lead. Hall, how much is he going to close in the draft down the back straight here? It's going to be important as to can he mount an attack on the final lap. So that lead goes from half a second to 4/10, now edging towards 3/10. Pressure is going to be on for Albert and Hall from here all the way to the finish. In fact, it gets as low as 2/10 between them now. They're braking at the end of the back straight.
Alex Albert's running a little wide.
Certainly is. Compromises his entry into the final corner a bit as well. Lets Hall stay nice and close. And one thing to look out for here at this circuit, I've seen people throw it down the inside of that final corner when someone's not expecting it on the final lap.
Did we get the white flag that time? It didn't look like it to me.
We certainly should have. There was less than a minute on the clock and we're doing laps around 1:40. We'll know shortly in 30 seconds when the time elapses if the white flag was indeed thrown. If I'm seeing the numbers I am, it should be the final lap, and I think both of these drivers should be fighting, presuming that this is the final lap. 0.2 of a second is all there is in it between first and second now. From the tabletop here, the run-off is critical, and Hall has absolutely nailed it. It's right with Alex Albert. It is the last lap. I have confirmation of that now. It's on your screen as well, Devon. So, 1.5 tenths. Albert all the way to the right-hand side of the circuit. Hall closing in the draft with the overspeed is going to be forced to go around the outside. They're absolutely level coming off the back straight here. Hall's done this before, held it around the outside to get the inside for the next corner. 2 corners to go. They're still door-to-door for the lead, but Albert has the inside for the final corner. Hall's going to try to cross it back underneath. He has a little bit more speed, but I do not think he is close enough. Alex Albert has... No?
Alex Albert got him. 0.08 of a second.
Less than a tenth in it at the line, but as you point out, Alex Albert just holds on for that checkered flag. And what pressure he had to soak in those final corners, Devon.
Yeah, and it looks like Andrew Fawcett and Jay Sofianek have gotten split up, but Aaron Thorpe and Jacob Hiller are nose to tail right now. Jacob Hiller had to dodge a dying Ernesto Carrioza, whose car blew up on the final lap, leaving a trail of smoke behind him. He was able to do that with some success, though, and it looks like he's got enough of a gap coming down the Andretti straightaway that Thorpe's not going to be able to challenge. But we'll see. They've been taking some very different lines through the final S's, and I think Thorpe's is a little bit faster, so we'll see if he can make something happen in these final corners.
Yeah, just no mistakes is what's needed for Jacob Hiller to try and bring 8th place home. It's where he qualified. It's where he's running right now. Only driver who looks like they're going to come home in the same position that they qualified. But Hiller certainly... he looks pretty happy with 8th, if I'm honest with you.
Hey, it always feels good to make a last lap pass.
So then Aaron Thorpe rolls it home in 9th, and it looks like Corey Barrett and Chris Knisley are the last cars on the lead lap there, and they are home now as well. And wow.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, 60 minutes of just non-stop action, especially at the front of the field there. So we can take a look at those results. Your winner, Alex Albert, was side by side to the checkered flag with Justin Hall. Almost nothing in it. And Hall gets second. Hurley in third. Well-deserved. Bradley Daly in fourth. Andrew Fawcett, biggest mover, 22 positions gained to finish in 5th. Jay Sofianek in 6th. Scott Grinnell in 7th. Jacob Hiller and Aaron Thorpe in 8th and 9th, respectively. And Corey Barrett, 2 pit stops for him, but he still brings home 10th place. Chris Knisley also forced into an unfortunate two-stop strategy, gets 11th. Hancock in 12th. William Corredor in 13th. 14th for Charles Kowalczyk. 15th for David Warden. 16th for Javier Pinzon. 17th for Carlos Corredor. 18th for Andrew Kosick. 19th for Ernesto Carriosa, as Club Florida is very well represented. David Palermo in at 20th. Thomas Smith 21st. 13 laps down is a retirement. There's all retirements here. Rob Craig, Christopher Flamion, Mitchell Peake, Paul Roddy, Alex Coffard, and Nicholas Love and John Wexler, I do not believe, took the start, Devon.
Yeah, and Ernesto Carriosa riding around in the background, proving the durability of these Miata engines with the smoke still pouring out of the back of that thing.
So we go to an interview now with your race winner, Alex Albert. That was, we had 4 or 5 leaders in this race. The pit stop strategy looked absolutely critical, and Justin Hall wasn't going to give you that one easy.
No, that was an amazing race, battling it out there all the way to the end. I was just complimenting Justin. He's become quite the intense racer. He gave me just enough room, and we took it in there side by side. He pushed a little wide there in the left-hander, but I overran the apex as well. So, yeah, it was just a lot of close racing, and it came down to just making. I think he made the mistake a little bit later in the race. We just both kept running wide in corners and letting the other one get the lead. So, yeah, it was a great race.
Tell us about the circuit here. I mean, it's a pretty quick lap, but don't fool you that it's simple or easy. A lot of places you can make a mistake that's costly, right?
Yeah, like turn 1 at the beginning of the race, I feel bad. I made contact there with the team car and caused him to have a bit of a shunt. So I want to apologize to Alex Coffer. But yeah, this track is very high speed. Turn 1, I think that we're in the top of 4th gear, so probably 95 miles an hour. And then we head to turn 2, which is super high speed blind downhill left and takes a lot of commitment in the perfect line. Saw some cars go off there. It's easy to do, to push out wide. Justin and I both had trouble in turn 3. It's really deceiving, and it feels like it almost falls away on the exit. And it's if you dip a wheel there, you lose all your momentum. It's such a high speed circuit that you have to keep your foot in it, then miss the whole lap. And then you get on to Moss, which is hard on the brakes turning, and I think I saw some trouble there as well. So just a really great circuit. I love the high speed nature of it, the danger of it, and the close racing.
You've had a couple wins this season. This adds to your tally. Where now in the second half of the season, how are you feeling overall?
Yeah, we've had a pretty good season going. Anything can still happen. There's a lot of races left, so we don't want to tally up our points too early. But obviously, happy to get another win. Just really glad to have such a clean race there in the second half with my teammate Justin, and just still kind of feel terrible about putting off my teammate Alex Cofford.
Well, the W for you, the big bag of points. Anyone you want to thank?
I want to thank Mike Jessic. He allows us to have this series and puts up great prizes. And as the champion last year, I won an entry fee, and Mike hooked me up with a team motor out of Florida, and I'll be racing this weekend at Daytona. So looking forward to enjoying the fruits of last year's labors, and just look forward to another exciting weekend at the track with all the ChampCar people at Daytona International this 4th of July or July 5th weekend, the companion event to the IMSA race.
Yeah, good plug. I think everyone should watch ChampCar Live presented by AutoZone this weekend, shouldn't they?
Oh, absolutely. And look for me in the number 84 Pontiac Firebird.
Thanks, Alex. Don't celebrate too hard.
I won't. Thanks, mate.
Devin Peters, I've grabbed our second place man, Justin Hall, and you've got some questions for him.
Yeah, Justin, fastest lap of the race from 6th place on the grid and ended up in 2nd. How are you feeling after all that?
Well, pretty good. I had no idea about the lap time. I was just focused on trying to keep everything together. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Looked like you had a firm lock on the lead there with about 10 minutes to go, and then it all kind of got sideways on you. How did that race end for you?
Yeah, I was Alex would make a little mistake, or I would make a little mistake, and we were kind of working together, so I didn't really take a whole lot of extra fuel, so that was kind of by design. But yeah, then the last few laps came in, and I kind of messed up a line, and we were kind of going back and forth, and just tried to do it at the end there. Just wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, from our angle, it looked like there was some contact on the way down into Moss there. Any hard feelings?
No, it was. It felt like the car. I don't know what happened to Alex's car, but on my end, it seemed like I just had some wheel spin. So that was kind of why my car was jerking around like that, and yeah, it's very unfortunate, because otherwise, I think I definitely would have had to run into the last corner there.
Mm-hmm. And we did notice that you took about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds less fuel than everyone else. That was something that you had kind of decided to do early on in the race?
Honestly, I just have JRT to set to like an extra 0.7 a lap, and I guess that's what it ended up being. I figured I would have been pretty clear, but yeah, that was kind of one of the reasons why there wasn't much too wide racing, just because I was kind of pushing it on fuel.
Oh, great race out there, man.
Oh, thank you very much.
Enjoy a cold one. Celebrate some Canada Day. Anyone you'd like to shout out tonight?
Yeah, shout out to you guys, Team Huge Ass. You guys are doing a great job at all this. Appreciate all your hard work. Shout out to girlfriend for putting up with all this, and yeah, just looking forward to the next one.
Congratulations on a good finish and moving up into second place in the points. Good job.
Thank you, sir.
And we get to do the full podium suite of interviews, because I've grabbed our third place man, John Hurley, pitting 2 laps later than everyone else in that battling top 4. What was the thoughts on the strategy there? If we do have John Hurley.
I just missed the. I was kind of thinking about it, and I should have gone right after the lap after they pitted. I should have gone in, and then I got and made things worse. I got held up just a bit in Moss, and pretty much lost all my drive through there. So that added that extra time, and I took a little bit too much fuel, but oh well, it's still a good run.
Looked like there might have been as much as 2 seconds per lap difference between a new set of tires and at the end of a run. How does that manifest itself and feel from behind the wheel?
Yeah, it didn't feel. I mean, the place where it felt the most off was actually in Moss, getting the car to turn in with any speed and being able to carry that up that long backstretch. And that's why, I don't know. I just kind of brain cramped, and I should have come in right after they pitted. But live and learn. Those guys, Alex has always got the pit stops figured out, so, I tend to, in these races, I just kind of hop in on a whim and don't really have a full on game plan. I mean, I think I got into quali like 30 minutes before the start of the race. I was surprised I had pace to even keep up.
You did overall seem to have some pretty solid pace though for this track. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, this is one of the tracks that I enjoy. So I think I do end up running there, pretty good. I mean, for me, it's like if I enjoy a track, if I can get a good rhythm on the track, then I'll tend to be decently fast. But it's a good time. It's always a good time to run with you guys.
You managed to hunt down and pass Bradley Daly for that final podium step towards the end of the race. Was that just the fresher tires having pitted later, or he was sloppy, or you just felt like you got more pace around here?
I think that second stint, I just picked up a little more pace too. So I found some spots that I could save the tires and go faster. And that's what I was trying to do in the first stint. So I kind of figured that the tires would be a bit of a factor. And I think that's why I was able to pick up the pace. And even on the leaders, I was gaining a bit of time on them. And I think I had a little bit of front end damage. I don't know if that was really hurting my my times in the backstretch or not.
Well, congratulations, third place. You put on a bit of a show at points throughout the race, gave us things to talk about and definitely some action to watch. We're gonna see you again 5th of August for the championship race at VIR. And when are you gonna be in the car out on the racetrack? When are people gonna see you?
Well, the hope right now is that we'll run at VIR. I'll run with Huggins Racing at VIR. And then we're going to be really busy. We're going to hit Sebring in my car, the SC300, to try to get that win down there that we missed out on last year, and then we're going to Barber right after that with Chris again. So it's going to be packed right there towards the end of the year. Hopefully, COVID notwithstanding, obviously.
I wish you the best of luck with them, and I think there'll be some eyes on you. Any final thanks, shout outs, or thoughts about today's race?
Thanks to the HJBC guys. David, I appreciate you always doing these great broadcasts. Devin, the back end, Michael, the back end. I know you guys are also working on that stuff. And then Mike Chestnut with ChampCar. I really appreciate him putting these things together. They're really a blast. I enjoy anytime I can get on and race with the group here.
We appreciate having you. Congratulations. Don't celebrate too hard.
Yeah. Already started.
Oh, that's actually probably good to hear. Well, there we go. We'll wrap up our coverage there, having spoken with our top 3 finishers, Alex Albert, Justin Hall, and John Hurley here for what was round 9 of the ChampCar iRacing series from Mosport Park. It was action start to finish. Probably one of the better, cleaner races we've had in a while. It's been David Haynes. It was Devin Peters alongside me, and it's Michael Derby who presses all of the buttons and makes all of the images happen. Cannot do it without him. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as I said, next championship round here on iRacing, 5th of August for an endurance race from VIR. We hope to see you again then. Good night.